Hello, beautiful people. I am DJ, and welcome back to my channel Indian Cooks and Books. I have been MIA for the last 3 months, I think, and it feels very strange filming again, talking to the camera. I'm not used to it anymore. So I want to tell you what I have been up to. It feels the right time to come back. I hope you have been well. I have been alright. There have been new things in this new year. The first quarter of this year is almost ending, and I still haven't updated you what I have been reading, what I have been doing in general this year. So, this is my what I've been up to kind of video. So, the first thing I would like to start by saying is that I have put myself on a book buying ban, and I have not bought any books this year. I've been borrowing books from the library. I also have this subscription of an audio book app, and I've been doing that without spending a lot of money because last year I spent more than I should have, and I did not read enough. I pretty much just kept buying and not reading. So that's about my book ban. This year I've been financially responsible, I think, for my future travel. I guess my dream is to travel, and it's not easy, and that's why I've been saving up. And another thing that I've been doing for my future traveling is I have gotten back to studying Spanish. I studied Spanish for a couple of years back in the day, and I quit it because my classes went online and I got crazy busy at work and I dropped out. But I have gotten back to it with different things like podcasts and watching YouTube videos about Spanish, and also with different language learning apps and textbooks, workbooks, etc. I also listen to some Spanish songs. I want to read a little bit in Spanish as well as practice or as fun, and I'll keep you updated on my progress as and when I feel like. And I will be taking the Delay Level B1 exam in October. That's my goal for this year. So that's about Spanish. And I've also set another goal, that is to become healthier. I've been trying to eat healthier, which I'm not so successful in yet, but I'm on the right track. I've been trying to cut down on junk food. I eat vegan, like most of you probably already know. I have also started swimming, going to the swimming pool, and it has been amazing. Like every morning I wake up looking forward to going to the pool. I hope that I'll become healthier, fitter soon. Okay, so that's about general things about what I have been up to. Now let's talk about reading. I have been reading dark and depressing and emotionally scarring books, as always. That is my type. And when I think of the books that I've read this year so far, a couple of them that pop up first in my head are these two books about pandemics, and they have made me catastrophize things more than I usually tend to do, which is quite often already. But I liked the books even though they have not been that great on my mental health. And the books are called Severance by Lingma and How High Do We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. Let's talk about Severance. It had intrigued me ever since I had seen people on BookTube talk about it a little bit. It's a millennial novel, if you want to call it that, but it is also a novel about pandemic. In it, there is a fever that kind of gets you stuck in a routine of like this very mundane thing that most of people just like keep repeating things, and they get stuck in that loop, and until they just cannot live anymore. They just, for example, if a person is a stay at home mom, she will probably keep repeating the same task that she does every night at the dinner time, setting up the table and serving food and cleaning and washing and tidying up the house. And the fevered people just keep repeating that, and it's just so depressing when to think of it as a disease, because a lot of us are kind of doing the same thing, a milder version of the loop that the disease makes people go into. Quite depressing, to be honest. And the protagonist is a Chinese American woman who works in a publishing company, who works with Chinese printing presses, which kind of are shady sounding establishments where people might be overworked and underpaid, and so that people can buy Bibles. She works in the Bible department, and they sell like novelty editions of Bibles, and there is like a bunch of things about religion and bunch of things about immigration, bunch of things about experience as an immigrant, and a person who is kind of severed from their roots. And the protagonist, along with a handful of people, doesn't get infected by this disease, and somehow manages to survive, but kind of gets sucked into this cult-ish kind of thing that one of the survivors has come up with. And they are quite religious, and they are kind of regressive, and she gets kind of stuck, and she kind of gets imprisoned inside a mall. It's very strange. Like, they take shelter into a mall, and there's just lot of heavy ideas about people's attachments to things and places, and then this like severance from so many things that I ultimately don't really matter. Like, human beings don't really need these things. And yeah, there's like a lot of commentary on capitalism, and there is a lot of commentary on religion, racism, sexism, and a lot of social commentary, which I enjoyed quite a lot reading about. I also found out that Lingma wrote this novel while they were on severance pay, which is quite hilarious. Like, they were restructured from their work, I think, and they were given like a few weeks like pay as a severance pay, and while they were surviving on that pay, they kind of wrote this book, I think, which is a genius idea. I think I would recommend this book, highly recommend this book. The next book, pandemic, in the theme of pandemics, was Sequoia Nagamatsu's How High Do We Go in the Dark, which is kind of a mouthful of a title, but the book is really dark and kind of depressing, but a little bit hopeful as well. Just like the last book, Lingma's Severance, this one also has kind of dark themes of death and life. And it starts with this story of a scientist who travels to a research center in Siberia in place of his daughter, who has recently passed in an accident. His daughter was also a scientist, and she was researching about the environment, and she was trying to kind of find like some kind of a cure to global warming and kind of this imminent like gloom over the world, like danger over the world of destruction, and because of the degradation of the environment. And she was quite hopeful, even though she knew of the dangers that we are into because of the icebergs melting and global warming. Her parents, though, were not the most enthusiastic when she wanted to go to Siberia, leaving her 8-year-old daughter with them and being away from her own family, risking everything to go off to Siberia. But then, in an accident, she dies there, and her father, who is also a scientist, gets offered this position at the same center to continue his daughter's work, which is quite kind of jarring to think of a person going in place of his own daughter who just died a few days ago. And he kind of tries to discover what her mission was. Like, they weren't exactly seeing eye to eye because of her decision to go away, but he kind of goes and tries to continue on the path that he himself kind of had in the past been reluctant to let his daughter follow, which is quite ironic, poetic, genius idea. And this is the first story, and there are multiple stories. Like, this book is kind of a collection of stories from different point of views of different people during the past, present, and future of this pandemic. And I forgot what the pandemic was, to describe what the disease was like. So in the Siberian research center, they have found this dead body buried and preserved under a lot of layers of ice of this young girl, and the young girl's body within it has preserved a very rare strain of like this ancient disease, and that kind of gets spread throughout the world again and becomes a pandemic which affects children primarily, and it's quite brutal. And there are like lots of very incredibly depressing things happening in the world. And one chapter is about amusement parks, but these are euthanasia amusement park for children who've been affected by this disease. But there is like human tenacity that comes through in some of the stories. People try to go like high in the dark, trying to reach for a way out. And there is like depiction of hope as well as like horrible commodification of death that we might have seen but tried not to see around us. There are like hotels like dedicated to like deaths and funerals, and they like everything is capitalized and commodified. Death is like a hot commodity, and everything kind of, all the commercialization of death is just too much. And kind of makes you have like doubts about the humankind. It's brutal. And it's like all connected. These stories are all connected, and they're mostly featuring these Japanese diaspora characters. A couple of stories happen in Japan as well, and one of them is adorable. It's about this Japanese man who is expert in these robotic pet dogs that they made, and they could be kind of your companion, new companions once your loved one is gone. And it's heartbreaking. And a lot of other stories are like that, and it's a beautiful book. It's really beautiful, so I would recommend this too. And I did read another like 7 more books. I am kind of behind by 3 books on my 1 book per week reading goal, but it's okay. I will try to catch up soon. I will talk about them in future videos. I just felt really nice talking about these 2 books that I read in January back to back, and it was an experience. And do let me know if you have already read these books, and or if you read and then your thoughts about these books. I would love to know. Until then, take care. I will see you next time.